Thousands of US servicemen and women are finally heading home from the Middle East after one of the most grueling deployments in recent US Navy history, nearly 9 months at sea, a chunk of which has come during the ongoing US-Iran war. For weeks, reports and social media posts have talked about appalling conditions and low morale on board the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln.
It's primarily that it has been at sea for such a long period of time with no port calls where young men and women are able to at least get off the ship and go out and have some fun and at least see something different other than the other 5,000 people that are on that ship. The food was poor and scarce in a way. The other things are the overflowing toilets, that the plumbing and the basic infrastructure of the aircraft carrier was really having difficulties.
That's retired Army Colonel and former US diplomat Ann Wright. She argues it has raised questions over leadership and says the complaints from sailors are symptoms of a much larger problem, one that's affecting the US military deployed in the Middle East: morale.
Military families have always felt it was their role to make sure that the U.S. government knew how concerned they were about the fact that their loved one had joined the military and that they should have proper treatment.
And Ann Wright isn't alone in raising concerns.
Family members are very upset. It's more than the Lincoln, actually, because the whole naval group that's out there are not being supplied adequately. It's basically miserable. Okay, what can I say? Is food is short. All your supplies are short. They can't even adequately clean the boat.
That's Jeffrey Merrick from the organisation Military Families Speak Out. It provides support and advocacy for troops, veterans and military families while speaking out against what it considers unjust or unnecessary wars. The issues Jeffrey Merrick and Ann Wright speak of have also been attracting attention in Washington.
So I want to be clear that I don't expect for an aircraft carrier to be the Holiday Inn. Right? I don't expect for it to be a luxury lifestyle. Our Marines and our sailors, they are the best of the best. They sign up for hard duty. But we also should expect basic habitability. We should expect running water and clean drinking water, enough food to eat, working plumbing, the basics. Because when you don't have the basics and you think about the needs of the warfighter, it's not just about having enough weapons or the right kinds of weapons. It's also about basic quality of life.
Wright believes concerns extend beyond the Abraham Lincoln. She points to reports of other issues involving the US Navy.
More ships apparently have had problems that were not made public. There was a destroyer called the Benfold that was in the South China Sea, and it lost complete, total power. So they could not move forward. It couldn't move backward. The water, fuel, plumbing, everything was affected. And it eventually had to be towed to Subic Bay in the Philippines. We had never heard about that one before. And then there are several others that have had small fires on board. One of them, the aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford had a major fire in its laundry room to the extent that it had to go into to Crete, the Greek island of Crete, where the U.S. has a big Navy base, and had to be repaired there. And something like 30 sailors had to be treated for smoke inhalation.
Now, history shows that troops can endure extraordinary hardship when they believe in the mission. It gets harder when they start asking a different question. What exactly is the mission? And what does success actually look like?
They've never had a clear mission. They never said why we initially attacked Iran. They came up with some reasons. Well, Israel was going to do it, so we have to help them. They were going to do it anyway, so we just did it. You have to be able to motivate yourself, just not because, quote unquote, it's your job, which you want to prove. You always want to do your job correctly. But if you feel like you're not doing anything, quote unquote, important, or it's a waste of your time, then it's very hard to stay motivated.
Because ultimately, this isn't just a story about food, overflowing toilets, or long deployments. It's about whether the people being asked to fight believe the mission still has a clear purpose. Military deployments are rarely comfortable or easy. The bigger issue is trust. Trust that political leaders have a clear strategy, trust that military leaders understand what troops are experiencing, and that the sacrifices being asked of service members are actually leading towards a defined objective.
They just left the Abraham Lincoln out there sweltering and with people having tremendous morale problems.
The Trump administration dismisses the criticism. They argue that maintaining a strong military presence is necessary to protect American interests and deter further attacks. The US president says complaints about deployments are being exaggerated.
But over the years, we've had them out there much longer. I was at a group meeting and an admiral came up to see me over the weekend. And it was at a big group, and he happened to be an admiral retired. He said, I've been on ships that are out there much longer than that, sir. And I know people on the Lincoln, they say it's beautifully maintained and beautifully taken care of. And other people went out and they found out to be true. It was fake news reporting from CNN.
While months-long deployments do occur in the US Navy, the sailors on board will often get time on dry land. Now, these sailors have been out at sea for more than 240 consecutive days without a real break at port. And it's unclear if this style of deployment will become the norm. The US military has undergone significant changes since Donald Trump returned to office in 2025. His Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has been clear about the kind of military he wants to build. He's focused on combat readiness, higher physical strength, and what he describes as a warrior ethos. And he's argued that the military is moving in the right direction with recruitment, retention, and morale all at historically high levels.
I'm authorizing a new screening program for testosterone deficiency for our service members, ensuring you have the right testosterone levels to operate at your absolute best. This initiative, it's not about artificial enhancement. It's about restoring and optimizing your natural capabilities, protecting your longevity, and ensuring you have the biological foundation required to sustain the fight.
But Wright argues the US administration is out of touch with the reality of deployment for service members.
When you have President Trump that says, hey, they haven't been out there long enough, that doesn't do anything for morale. And when you have Hegseth that's saying, hey, they're getting everything they need, there's not a problem with resupply, and you're on the ship going, are you kidding? How can you be so crass? And that it will be the family members that will, and already speaking out saying this is horrendous.
But surely low morale has been an issue in the past. Wright says she's seen other crises in the US military before.
I joined the military during the war on Vietnam, although I never was deployed to Vietnam, thank goodness. But I certainly know how bad the morale was for ground forces and actually for Air Force people who started complaining indeed that why are we continuing to bomb South Vietnam, North Vietnam? We've bombed everything. The longer it goes on, the greater the probability that there will be people within the military speaking out against what's happening.
Now, all of what we've discussed is happening as the ongoing US-Iran war rages on. According to Pentagon figures, there have been hundreds of injuries and over a dozen deaths among US service members since the conflict began earlier this year. The Trump administration insists the US's forces remain capable, prepared, and fully supported. Critics argue that extended deployments, mounting casualties, and uncertain objectives are creating strains that leaders are failing to address. And as one aircraft carrier heads home and another takes its place, the central question remains: can the United States sustain a military mission indefinitely if the people carrying out that mission are increasingly unsure where it's leading? I'm Pablo Foley Elias. Thanks to the team here in Berlin: David Levitz, Eric Nelson, Paul Hurst, Stephanie Englert, Philip Checa, and Paula Valenzuela. I'll see you again soon. Take care.